Payday is a game about thievery of the highest order. You might think it's just a matter of larceny, robbing from banks and stealing jewels, all for the glory and wealth of it, but in actuality there is much more to the tale of these career criminals than just money and guns. The truth is that the Payday gang embarked on a 7-year crime spree that would change how the US was governed and eventually prevent a shadowy and supernatural New World Order from having the world within their sordid grasp. And in this video series, I'm going to explain all of it, from the early days of Payday the Heist to its mysterious culmination at the White House. This is the story of Payday. Back to where it all began. Just Dallas, Hoxton, Chains and Wolf, the assault, sharpshooter, support and technician. Thanks to their eyes and ears Bane, a career criminal and intelligence expert, these 4 extraordinary individuals were able to leave a lasting mark on America through crime alone. Let's start by getting to know these characters and their backstories. Dallas, real name Nathan Steele, is the leader of the Payday gang as well as probably the most infamous member of the group. According to his backstory, he's a multi-talented individual with a number of past occupations. From a young Chicago mobster who rose through the ranks from bouncer to hitman, before eventually turning the mob against itself and another, to an underground gun runner, unlicensed physician, and self-employed hitman with a vendetta against the American drug trade. Dallas did the lot. He's clearly not a man entirely without morals, but one who sees his bottom line as paramount to all else, as displayed by his later willingness to be involved in the Payday gang's own drug-based exploits. As of the events of the first game, he is 42, having spent over a decade on the run from the consequences of his past gang involvement. After having what Bane describes as a criminal midlife crisis, he had a change of heart, wanting a criminal crew to operate with. Bane was quick to reach out and provide, given Dallas's pretty impressive skill set. His nickname appears to originate simply from his city of residence at the point of first interaction with Bane, likely where he chose to live due to their, shall we say, liberal gun laws. Hoxton, real name James Hawksworth, is the most out-and-out criminal within the gang. Hailing from a wealthy family in Sheffield, England, he chose not to rely on the silver spoon he was born with, becoming renowned in the bare-knuckle boxing underworld at a very young age. Starting his criminal career at 19 in a liquor store robbery, Hoxton became accustomed to the criminal lifestyle and the tricks of the trade surrounding it, becoming an extremely proficient marksman and learning to switch between a swindling trickster or intimidating heavy whenever the need arose. After moving down south and joining a London gang situated in the Hoxton district, Hox experienced his first arrest, which would earn him his nickname, especially given its similarity to his surname, something done very often in the UK, hence my channel name if you weren't aware. Hoxton receives Dallas's invite to the gang at the age of 30, making him the youngest member of the original crew. Wolf, real name unknown, is the most unlikely member of the Payday crew. Born in Stockholm, Sweden, he ran a software development company in his hometown. This firm began to struggle in the wake of the Great Recession, losing most clients and causing Wolf himself to take out large personal loans to keep things afloat. When this failed to save his company, leaving Wolf bankrupt and his family on the streets, Wolf was pushed over the edge. It's unknown what became of his family, but Bane reports that he suffered a psychotic break and started acting out crimes he'd witnessed in his favourite action movies, to surprising success. Although more level-headed by 2011 than the events of Payday the Heist, at the age of 32 he's still the most unhinged and violent in the crew, noted by his apparent bipolar personality. Despite this, his lack of hesitation and intimidating nature make him a dependable heister, if nothing else. It would appear his nickname either originates as an English translation of his actual name, or simply from his ferocious personality. Chains, real name known only to be Nicholas, which may also be itself an alias, is the final member of the core crew and the one with the greatest field experience when shootouts occur. He's a military veteran of the US Navy SEALs, which appears to have given him the skills needed to enact successful field triage and medical support. However, his lack of compassion and primary desire for adrenaline may explain why his role changed away from that of support in Payday 2. Going from a troubled childhood to the military and eventually mercenary work explains the ease with which he shifted to the criminal world of the Payday gang, with most of his mercenary missions entailing something outside the realm of legality, something Chains didn't question as long as he got his adrenaline fix. Joining the gang at the age of 35, Chains is probably still the most athletic and muscular in the group, owing to the physical requirements of being a military man. His nickname originates from his life in servitude as a soldier to the government which the Payday gang and Crime.net wish to expose and exploit. Most importantly, it is Bane that brings the four together. It is he who designed their masks from their own personal specifications, as well as with the intent to intimidate and make a mockery of the government the gang was waging a crime war against. Bane also orchestrates the heist, providing inside men and drivers to assist in infiltration and exfiltration, and who covers your tracks after the mission is through, all from his position as an underworld big brother, the creator of Crime.net. Moving on to the beginning of the Payday the Heist timeline, which is confused massively by the existence of repeated classic heists in Payday 2. Because of this, I'm going to assume that Greenbridge specifically did not canonically happen until the events of Payday 2, and we'll discuss that in a later video. Other than that, we just assume everything is as we see it in Payday the Heist. Although I'm going to have to make a number of stretches and assumptions, what we do know for certain is that the Payday gang's first job was the First World Bank, likely taking place in New York. The bank appears to be a chain, hence its appearance in other media from other locations around the game. This being their first job, there are a number of uncharacteristic occurrences within the heist. For example, their use of deadly force and the supposed heavy handling of the bank manager, who later turns up in testimonials against the gang. This is highlighted by their inability to approach the house stealthily, as they are able to do so a few years later. What it does show is the crew's ingenuity, ability to enact mass violence, and Bane's control over proceedings. The gang use a pre-stashed store of thermite and a trusty drill, soon to be a staple of Wolf's, to enter the bank vault through the lockdown, stash the cash, and escape in a garbage truck. Not before dispatching of numerous heavily armoured bulldozers, close quarters combat specialist cloakers, as well as the supportive taser and shield wielding riot police. All specialised police units which would be regular foes of the gang wherever in the US they heisted. For the next jobs in the Payday gang's original spree, there was not a great deal of deeper motivation beyond causing havoc, exposing and embarrassing the police, as well as obviously making money. This is something that would change as time went on and the gang's notoriety increased. Following the success of the First World Bank heist and craving more action, the gang hit a Manhattan embassy, escaping with ease and seemingly silently with a valuable briefcase containing plates. One of Bane's trusted escape drivers, Matt Roscoe, was meant to be their ticket out of there, but things are seldom that simple. Matt betrays the crew, taking the briefcase for himself and firing a pot shot at the crew behind the glass. Heat Street follows the gang rushing through the streets of New York on foot to find the now crashed car of the traitorous escape driver, and get out with the briefcase now handcuffed on his arm. This was one of the crew's most public escapes. If New Yorkers hadn't heard of them before, they certainly did now. Following exfiltration by the pilot Alex, it appears the gang did not sever his arm as they were threatening to do, but instead allowed him to be arrested by the police, obviously not being trusted enough to have any information that would accurately lead the police back to Bane and the gang. Next up, we have Panic Room. The squad head to the New York projects to attempt a phony drug deal with the gang, which was just a front to get them access to a panic room Bane had intel on, filled with US dollars and cocaine. The drug interception and gang hit links back to Dallas's experience with the US drug underbelly. The method of extraction is very much in the Payday style. They saw the locked container free from the floor, blow holes through the roof of the apartment complex with C4, and finally Alex winches it free with a magnet attached to his helicopter before fleeing through the project sewers, a dirty escape method that would be leveraged by the gang time and time again. Following this, we embark on the initial diamond heist, the first stealthable mission the crew would be greeted with. In this heist, the crew hit a high-rise, the Garnet Group skyscraper, later known to be situated in Washington, D.C. The aim being to acquire the well-guarded family diamonds within the vault at the epicenter of the business headquarters. The plan is pulled off as follows. The gang is able to disable the building's security system and access the keypad into the vault. However, canonically, it seems like the stealthy option didn't come off, as Ralph Garnet, son of Nathan, the CEO of the company, recollects a screw-up at the last business celebration when we come to hitting the Garnet Group a second time years later, indicating that the codes the gang were given by the company's CFO didn't work and a hostage trade was required to liberate the jewels. This is one of the most significant robberies pulled off in the early years of Payday's setting, as the crew obtained a massive red diamond, in the process alerting the DC police force of their incredible tenacity, gall, and competence to terrorize the department for years to come. During this first wave of criminal activity, we get to see the first signs of depth that this story holds. At some unknown point, the gang are hired for a suspicious job in Mercy Hospital, which is harbouring patients experiencing symptoms of a strange viral outbreak. Their objective is to obtain samples of this virus for an unknown but lucratively paying buyer, offering the Cagliostro manuscript in exchange for 2 vials of serum, a reward Bane saw as attractive enough to fund the gang's services himself. It's mentioned that Bane knew that this was a bad job before going into it, but his desire for information regarding some great secret overwhelmed his good judgment, something he wouldn't know to regret until years later. The heist itself involved extracting highly positive samples of an infected patient's blood, doing so by controlling the doctors and visitors at the hospital while entering the ICU ward in disguise. Upon successfully finding patient 0, the alarms were sounded, meaning samples had to be tested with the police breathing down the group's necks. Not entirely ethical. When escaping through the lower floors, Bane makes his first mention of Murky Water's shady influence, as they make a heavily armed appearance to destroy the building as the gang escapes, preventing the spread of the virus and seemingly suppressing knowledge of the event, notable in its omission from the FBI files. At this point, Bane doesn't know exactly what or who this organisation is, although they would have another encounter very soon. The final known heist in the gang's first crime wave takes place in a slaughterhouse and is the first known interaction with the Murky Water mercenaries, who would later become the primary antagonists of the series. This also marks the move that the gang is making towards hitting the DC area specifically. As with most of the other first wave crimes, this one has quite some setup and leaves a lasting impact, adding to the gang's notoriety. With a planned highway car crash orchestrated to force a rerouting of the Murky's gold-carrying convoy right into the path of the Payday gang's ambush, using a heavy loader to push the armoured car through the roof of a nearby slaughterhouse. Using the slaughterhouse as aerial cover, the gold bullion is moved through the building and out into an attached export park, using a crane to move the incredibly heavy haul, as well as improvised fire and smoke traps to escape the pursuing police, escaping this time in their traditional van. After lying low for a few months, Wolf actually makes some surprisingly forward-thinking moves, using his technological prowess to identify some new prospective jobs and acquire new weaponry. This would send the gang out to Florida and back to DC again, widening their national reach and setting the scene for some of the events of Payday 2. The first of the Wolfpack heists was Counterfeit, bringing with it a trip to Pensacola. Here, the crew would pose as Bodie's pool repairmen to infiltrate the counterfeit money printing bunker of Mitchell Summers and Wilson Jones. They hack the security boxes, and as recounted in the Guide of Bane, the crew was unable to defuse the C4 rigged to the bunker, and so the pool explosion is canonical. The crew is, however, successful in water-cracking the safe which contained the counterfeit printing plates, the heist's primary objective. Before making their escape, the gang notes some peculiar markings on the rug in Wilson's lounge, alongside suspicious radio static, informing Bane of these details, which he immediately links to a great criminal secret that he has been seeking answers to since his own heisting career, associated with the great Italian adventurer Cagliostro. Further investigations upon returning to the New York Crime.net base of operations indicated that a return to the Manhattan branch of the First World Bank was necessary, and the goal would be to steal roughly $70 million of Mayan gold. It also revealed a number of all-important clues to an even greater secret, which would run deep into Payday 2. Before the plan could be acted upon, the crew would need to develop a stronger presence outside of New York, as well as connections in the DC area. The location Bane saw as a logical point of progression for the crew, given his political motivations and the need to hide outside of New York. To embark on this connection, we see the heist undercover, a dual-purpose operation. First, it was intended to plant roots in DC, as well as gain the respect and attention of influential Colombian drug lord, one Hector Morales. Second, it typified the type of contract Bane favoured, hitting a corrupt IRS agent who was misusing a server loaded with $25 million of taxpayer money for a personal business deal, money that Bane felt would be better off in their hands, if not the public's. Unfortunately, the intel was a little off, as the DC police force were already onto codename Taxman, using the shady apartment business deal as a location for his arrest. All this really did, though, was allow the gang to show their range. Once the smash and grab was off the table, they opted for just grab, with a side of light torture, to extract the passwords needed and escape with the server information. It also allowed them to leave their mark on the DC police force, undoubtedly catching Hector's attention in the process. With a buyer for the gold secured, the crew returned to the location of the first heist they attempted as the Payday Gang, the newly reopened First World Bank. This time, thanks to the intel gathered in Florida, the objective was clear. Drill into some sort of overvault, a room hidden and protected by more than just simple vault doors. This contained the ancient Mayan gold belonging to Mr. Trust, a mysterious benefactor of both GenSec and the government. Not only would the crew be getting richer, they would be cutting off the hand of the organisation that was most set to oppose them, as well as delivering a message to those in government. The heist was a success, despite the measures put in place to defend this essential asset, including a secret method of gaining access to the vault door, as well as a coded tile puzzle, the solution to which was required in order to advance further in the vault. After this, Bane would demand that the crew lie low and wait for the deal with Hector to go through, a hiatus that would last a number of months, extended upon receiving their cash, which would sustain their lifestyle into the next year. In early 2013, however, disaster struck, as, coincidentally, once contact with Hector was properly established, Hoxton would soon find himself in police custody. Despite his professionalism and usual caution, lying low in West Virginia, the police were able to arrest and hold the suspect at USP Hazleton, holding on to pretty unassailable evidence of a tape recording from the diamond heist and fingerprints from Panic Room. Suspicious, seeing as how Hoxton was the resident ghost in the crew, but manufactured or not, this evidence made his conviction almost a formality. Which is how the story lies at the start of Payday 2. The team, rich but splintered and seeking action, as well as the location of their missing friend, would converge at Bane's new base of operations, the now expanded Crime.net operation in Washington DC, intending to again commence their crime spree. And that ends off episode 1 of the Payday 2 Lore and History series. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you need anything clarifying in the comments down below, and stay tuned for the next episode, where I recount the early days of Payday 2.